begin, say thanks for coming. First of all, aloha. We'll do the typical Makaha Estates introduction of who you are, and then I'll just begin. So I'm Al Frenzels, lot 1546. My wife Phyllis probably doesn't remember our lot number.
I'm Jeremiah, so we remember not know something either.
Lenora Hoff, lot 1513.
Get off, lot 1513.
Mark Byron, lot 1542.
Marley Piver, 1542.
John Solo, President, Makaha Association, lot 1577.
Victor Raposa, lot 1491, Vice President, Makaha Association.
Miley Tesoro, John's daughter.
I told you don't want.
Okay.
Some people don't
I'll
want to
cut
be
it out.
photographed.
Okay, I'll take it out.
Yeah, you can photograph me, no problem. I've been in the news many times.
Because we have a pizza for the post office.
Good, very good.
Someone doesn't want it.
Oh, yeah, but they don't give food stamps anymore for rewards, so.
I have a lot of slides. I'm going to try and go through them quickly. Some of you have seen them before. And then we can get to Q&A, which I think is probably more productive than anything. So I think some of you know, how many were here, by the way, in 2008 during the flood? Oh, yeah. Everybody here? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to talk about a bunch of issues, don't worry about it. Okay, let me orient you to this. Fortunately, we have an aerial map of Makaha before, or soon after grading occurred. So 1984, and to orient you, let's see. So for instance, Victor lives here, John DeSoto lives here, this is the gate. This is where the Halves live up here. And Joe Meyer live right here. So, anyways, this is a blow up of a small photo, a high density photo. But I'm going to blow up higher because we want to focus on a certain area. Okay, so a little bit closer here. This is Digger's house, empty lot. Wiedemeyer's house, the house. So we have what's down here on this side of the concrete ditch. This is interceptor ditch number 1. This, which flows this way into the concrete ditch, is interceptor number 2. And over here is what's supposed to be interceptor ditch number 3. And so we're going to focus on this area right here is where the flooding was. And I'll blow up one more time. Okay, there we go. So shown up here, blown up, is what's called, and the only one that I know that refers to this system as a system is Landis Ornelas, and he calls it the containment and diversion system. So in the case of this particular leg, it comes here, makes a 90-degree left, and stops. Then there's this leg. There's this leg. This is the leg that failed in 1996. And then there's this leg, which actually is continuous and drains into the golf course as it's supposed to. So this was actually, as you may see in the future drawings, done to specification. Supposed to capture the water collected in the ditches or lower containment areas and cascade over gently into the one below it, but unfortunately, in not all cases is there anything below it. They don't overlap enough, particularly right here, and particularly right here. So in 1996, this is where the water busted through, and you'll see photographic evidence of that. And of course, it failed in 96. And then in 2008, you know, it didn't even function. So it couldn't fail because it didn't function. So that was the blow-up aerial photo. I don't know what kind of plane took that, but that's what, it's high density, that's what I zoomed down into. Okay, for those that were here in 96, the towers flooded. and it flooded horribly. Cars were overturned. Many feet of mud were located on the parking lots. Vehicles were trashed over to the side. I've got some pictures up here for that. Bottom line, a lot of damage, to include this lobby being wiped out by mud and rocks. So here's an aerial from that 1997 photo, and you see where this coloring here is kind of light, I don't know what color you call that, but the grayish color. The reason it's gray is because there's no vegetation, there's no rocks, there's no silt in those. It all flowed onto the parking lot of the towers, and because this here failed, it's supposed to go this way and out. This system was also built by the same people that built the containment and diversion system. Lois, can you help me carry?
Yes.
Hi, Lauren. Okay. So you see that, and oh, by the way, there's a rumor about the unfortunate incident of, and another administrative note, good point. There are bathrooms available to us inside here.
If not, they have the cans also too.
And there's big trees outside. This went to lawsuit in '97. It didn't leave lawsuit until about 2000. There were 2 lawsuits. I won't go into them, but the towers lost the first lawsuit. The towers were going to win the second lawsuit, but it got settled in court before it got to court, which is usually the case. And the city and county, in conjunction with some Senator Inouye money, came up with about $3 million to fix this issue. So those gray areas that inundated the towers, where's the tower? Down here, also inundated the valley in other spots. The stables, over here behind the golf course, by the golf course, but in particular, see these 2 big areas here. This is the area that failed behind what's known as the Bass Lot. And this area, this is interesting in that even though a large amount of water flowed down here, the built-to-standard ditch that was here handled it and sloughed it off to where it was supposed to go, which is towards Echo Stream. But this did not handle it properly, and it's why we're here today, really. Here's a blow-up of that area. And let me orient you here. This is Kazu's house, because it's built at the time. This is the Jonah's house. This is my lot, and this is Mr. Bass's lot. This is the Digger's house. So you can see what happened immediately behind the Bass lot was pretty horrendous. Well, actually, let me back up. In 1997, we don't know really what happened. We know that we got the photographic evidence. This that you see here is rock debris, silt and rock debris, all vegetation gone. And I'll show you current day pictures of the rocks that are still there. So this berm and ditch filled up, may have filled up even before this particular year because there's multiple 100-year storms in the valley. And the debris had nowhere to go and over, and then you see in here, you see remnants of where that stream continued to flow. And I wasn't here in '97, but there had to have been a lot of water flowing here because that's the direction it went. There's a further blow up. Again, the water comes down here from up above by Digger's house. This doesn't reach Digger's house. He is the one with the L-shaped thing that doesn't have any overlapping. So some water comes this way, but a massive amount of water comes from here. And I don't know how it's supposed to stop and slow down or cascade into something below it, but it decided not to do that and went straight through. Okay, here's some pictures from 2008. This is Digger's house is right here. Okay, and this is that ditch comes along Digger's house. It's a natural stream that then goes 90 degrees left where these people are standing. And this is supposed to be a ditch, but it's not a ditch. It looks more like a road. There's no bank. The bank is gone. The ditch is completely full. This is the middle of the ditch. You can see here where water went off the edge. This is the end of the ditch, and this is where it's supposed to well, actually the whole thing's supposed to cascade over slowly, but this is where at the end it had nowhere to go but straight down where water wants to go. I talked about this before. I'm going to blast through this again. Okay. That was basically to orient you where this is. This is before, this is again the road, the ditch sits behind Patricia's house. It comes down from Digger's house and it blows this way and then goes that way towards the rest of the properties. But you can tell how much water came down and knocked over that grass. I'll also show you that the reason all you see there is grass and very few trees. You see these short, stubby sprigs? BWS had cleared that sometime recently prior to this. Cleared it of the big growth trees, and at the time they weeded it, but obviously you see the grass is back. But this along with other photographic evidence proves that at one time, at least up until 2009, the BWS maintained those portions of the berm that were easy to get to. Again, I showed this before. This is the grass going down, and whoosh, it went down. This is about 9 in the morning. The rain quit about 4 or 5 in the morning. So the heavy flow is gone, and we're just seeing the remnants. This is down behind my house in the Bass house. This is the ditch that's supposed to capture the water and not let it flow down. It should be about 12 feet deep. Right there, it's about 3 feet deep, with about this much was silt and mud. So, but that is right here. That photograph is right here. Okay, this is looking the other direction. With the same area. Now we're looking that way, and then this is where the water went over the edge and the berm didn't stop it. This is water coming down from the stream up above. You don't see the water, all you see is silt. Because the water's, the sun's out, birds are chirping. So what you saw first, you saw a picture here looking that way. Let's back up. The first picture was here looking that way, and the last picture was here looking that way. Not too much revealing about those pictures. Now this is revealing in that this is you remember this picture here? This debris overflow is that debris overflow right there. That's the flow remaining from 1996 and maybe before that. I just don't have pictures before 96 of this area. We know that in 1996 this happened. This is not rocks left over from the 1980 excavation, because those would look like this and covered over in dirt and debris and growth. So that's pretty near. The water, this rock formation is so substantial that the water could not go through it. It could go over it, but it chose instead to go around it. And it chose to go through. So here's that rock pile over here. This is supposed to be the berm here, holding back a whole bunch of water. And it cut through here. This pipe is 12 feet in elevation. So it cut at least probably 10 feet of berm that was, almost solid rock. It's strong enough, supposedly, to hold back the water that this area was expected to receive. This is about, again, a 9 o'clock picture of that berm. So, berm standing over here, looking this way. And you see how deep it cut. And That's the remnants of the water going now. This is 2008, about 9 or 10 in the morning. And I want you to look at the old growth trees here. And you'll see old growth trees everywhere there. Not a sign of a dozer having ever been there since that area was excavated in 1980. Now we're standing on top of that berm, water's still flowing. So you can see the water was from here to over here. That wide, that many feet deep necessary. All this and plus the dirt down on the bass lot wound up on Montolu around Alaheli Street, and we were lucky not to lose Alaheli Street had it not undercut the asphalt. Again, notice the old growth trees. These trees have been there for since 1980. I don't see a sign of a dozer anywhere. Okay, so I don't know why I got that back up again, but what I'm going to show you now. So that, I know what that was. That was the summary. So that's the containment and diversion system. No paperwork, no plans, no drawings exist for that. Here's what drawings exist. I'll show you 3 examples. Proposed drainage plan by Park Engineering, June 1980. There's about 6 pages of plans. I'm going to show you the most important one. There are plans over here you can look at after the briefing. But this plan here is an overview of Montolu, which is right here. You have, these are different areas that were studied by the engineers and saying, well, this water flows to there, this water flows to there. So they studied where the water flowed, and then they accommodated it with ditches appropriate for the requirement. So this is, again, interceptor ditch number 1. It goes to Makaha Stream this way. Interceptor ditch number 2 flows into our concrete swale. These 2 ditches were built to spec. They perform to this day, and if you walk them, you won't even see that there's even any fill. They need very little maintenance. Some vegetation maintenance would help. These have been maintained by BWS. This has been maintained by BWS, and right here was maintained by BWS. Okay, now this 194-acre area here has the most predominant amount of water. It's protected by diversion ditch number 3, which goes all the way from above Digger's house all the way to the golf course. It spills into the golf course, which goes that way. This little mark here, that's what's called Echo Stream, EKU Stream. Okay, I'm going to show some more about this. Okay, so there's a blow up. Interceptor ditch 1, 2, and 3. I'll show another thing. Okay, a little backtracking here. This is a picture from around 2009. About the same time, BWS said they're not going to maintain the ditch anymore. They should have never been maintaining it. You can see this was recently maintained, and this one not as recently. But you know, if it wasn't being maintained for the last 15 years, we would have probably koa growing there. So let's go back to interceptor ditch number 3. It protects us from 194 acres worth of runoff. And here's other drawings that accompany that sheet. Interceptor ditches 1 and 2, which I discussed, were built to spec and still function to today, were designed like this. Basically a dozer blade in width and spoils put on the downhill side, and that's your ditch. That's what we have today. It's actually a little bit better formed than that. They have more than a 1-to-1 ratio, and there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, but unfortunately, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 4, 5, and 6 were for Montolu Phase 2, which never happened. But when you drive and you see all the earthwork up there, and you see ditches up there, and you think, well, someone built that to protect people, that's Montolu Phase 2, which is owned by Pacific Links. Anyways, Interceptor Ditch 3 is a V-shaped ditch, maximum permissible velocity, no limitation. The intent of this ditch, and the reason it's straight line and the reason it's a V, is the speed of the water, the velocity of the water will keep that as a self-maintaining ditch, and it shouldn't need maintaining. That's the engineer concept. All the spoils from that were put here. And oh, by the way, there's supposed to be a stone wall here that's 3 feet high. There is no stone wall anywhere created by the project developer on Makaha. Here's the accompanying statistical data or engineer data that accompanied the plan. Numbers 3, 4, 5, and 6. Anticipated maximum velocity is 30 feet per second. The proposed development will be protected with walls along the property line as shown on the plan. More blah, blah, blah. Here's the actual statistical computations. 1 and 2 are above Makaha. 3 is above Makaha. And oh, by the way, 3 is above Makaha. It's above properties that don't belong to us there at the end of the cul-de-sac on Alheli, and it protects the border water supply pump station and everybody below us. So anyways, 194 acres, the amount of cubic feet capable that its design needed to handle. This is what it was expected to be at the peak. Bottom line here is, I just want to show you there's engineer statistics that exist. There was actually work done to design a system that was supposed to protect developments, not just Makaha, but developments on the east side of Makaha Valley. So again, there's a roll-up of what's called the typical interceptor ditch plan. Okay, also that exists, if you go to the building records and you go through the microfiche, you'll see what's presented as an as-built drawing. There should be as-builts for any project that you go in and you say, this is what I finished with, and there should be an engineer stamp saying they're approved and accepted, and now it can be occupied. Well, this particular as-built has a squiggly line here, and it says existing ditch, this says existing ditch, and those are fairly accurate. But this squiggly line, which goes downhill, uphill, downhill, uphill, downhill, uphill, because the terrain goes like this, says existing ditch. There is no such thing as an existing ditch. This drawing is a fabrication. Okay, there's a blow up. Okay, there's also this drawing, and I looked at my paperwork again, and sometimes it's hard to tell what's a 90 document or an 83. In fact, that last one we looked at has multiple dates on it, everything from 80 to 81 to 83. This one, the copy that I can show you now, I could only find 1980 on it, but nevertheless, and oh, by the way, it's now called preliminary. And when I rechecked it and found the only document that was in the stack of stuff, let me see if I got a copy of it. Anyways, it's listed as a preliminary drainage plan for Makaha. And there are letters and documentation that refer to this plan because it refers to something called South Makaha Stream. Okay? It says rock break wall. There's a rock break wall right around the downhill side. Break wall or natural existing. But South Makaha Stream does not exist, never existed. And again, it shows it as a continuous instrument. There's a blow up. Okay, so you have 4 plans. The interceptor ditch plan, which is in, which we were fortunate enough, based on Mr. Lee Young hiring an engineer to go up to the 6th floor of the building permit office and find this in their files. This wasn't in their fiche. This was in their files upstairs, about 8 pages. Of what Park Engineering, who was the the designer intended to have built. This is what we have today. There's no plans that exist. These plans are on file. This plan is on file at the permitting office. Okay, I'll talk about that stuff. I'm going to skip that. I want to get to a specific incident. Okay, first of all, this is a 1984 map. What you can see on other drawings or pictures and handouts I'll give you later is there's a big rock pile right here, huge. And this pile is still behind me today. I've taken some rocks right about here and used them. It's rocks that were probably taken out of the ditches and then pushed down. In fact, when you look at this, you can see the dozer blades pushing this down. Okay, nevertheless, there's huge piles of rocks here. In 2004, there was some grading work, there was a lot of grading work done on Mr. Bass's property, which is this one right here. Okay? I live here, Mr. Bass, house. There are different opinions about what happened on this. I'm going to share you my opinion. I was a 100% 7-day-a-week full-time witness. I stood here, I stood here, I stood here. I was home doing landscaping. I just recently built. I was landscaping. It was in my interest to watch what was going on here because I wanted a smooth transition here. We didn't have one here because the person that owned my lot before me did grading and did some work here that I'm not happy with. But nevertheless, now I'm the owner. I can at least see what's going to happen here. And I watched the end of every day. I watched the end of the event. I wouldn't walk the ground. So I'm a witness. There were witnesses that maybe saw this from the road. Okay, this is about 800 feet back. There was a witness over here building a rock wall. Yeah.
Victor Raposa.
Yeah. And then there's an owner here who claimed to be a witness.
Council.
Yeah. And then there's Landis Ornelas who claimed to have gone back to the berm off of the Bass property and told the driver who was supposedly eating a sandwich, as 2004 said, I saw the dozer on the berm and I asked the driver to get off. 2008, all of a sudden it's an issue, we had flooding, blah, blah, blah. The accusation is excavation on the Bass lot in the berm caused the flooding. And then we had the Board of Water Supply come up multiple times and do walkthroughs with us. For some reason, Landis Ornelas says we need to keep this quiet. Why? What did we need to keep quiet? I never did understand that. But on 2010, I showed Mr. Ornelas this information that you see here today, and he said, all I can say is I saw a dozer on a mound of dirt, and I asked the driver to get off. My contention at the time was, this is a pretty big pile of rocks here. And these rear boundaries aren't marked. And this lot, the boundary is very far back. Could he have been mistaken of where he saw that dozer? I don't know. But I know on 2010, several months later, when I walked the ground with him, and we walked here, and we walked up here, when we were up here, and we looked at the cut of the disaster that I showed in the pictures, I think he saw for the first time, even though we walked up there several times, he said, it's obvious that dozer didn't do this. Okay?
He said, Landis didn't see that.
He must not have seen it. So, what I'm showing you here now is an aerial picture from the towers. Okay?
Sorry,
Yeah.
I don't want to miss your career. The dozer that was up there, was that up there by the Board of Water Supply, or was that up there by the... By Bass's?
Mr. Bass was rubbing and grading.
Son Lawrence.
Son Lawrence is operator.
Operator was up there. And he was, too bad he can't see here, I can tell you.
He's right behind you,
Where he
sir.
was.
Yeah.
Not Bassy, the operator.
No, not Bessie, it was the Son Lawrence operator. Because I was working the wall next door, next property over.
Yeah,
And
no.
that's why when they asked me, I said, yeah, there was a berm like you say in the front, but there was another one. He went over and over to Nick's berm. He was down in the hill over there.
Can I finish?
Sandwich.
I appreciate it. Let me finish, so I'll get through this real quick, and
Sorry,
we can
I
open
just
up
wanted
the
to know
discussion.
where the dozer was from.
I have a timeline over here. I'm also going to hand this out, but if I just want to point out, and between 2004 and 2006, I attended board meetings. Immediately after the grading occurred, at various board meetings, Mr. Ornelas would bring up, hey, we need to do something because the dozer on the Bass lot went off the property and damaged the berm. And I remember what I witnessed, and I would in those meetings say that never happened, I never saw that. I had no motivation to explain what I saw. So we had two competing pieces of information here, and the president of the board at the time that I remember was Patricia Anderson, and she wouldn't get involved in the discussion because we had one opinion. Bottom line is, as early as 2004, 2006, dozer story from Mr. Ornelas, dozer rebuttal from Frenzels. I had no motivation other than to explain what I saw. Now, this photo shows from Makaha Towers the back end of the Bass lot. I'm going to blow through these real quickly. This is Mr. Bass's back boundary. This is cord that was laid, nylon tape. And this is the back of my boundary. Okay? And this back here is the berm that failed. Okay? So I'll go to the next slide. Okay? So here we have back property line. Forward, this is the forward edge, not the back edge, but the forward edge. I'm reaching over the edge to mark the forward boundary. And 3 dangerous canyons come down into here. And, oh, by the way, everything left of it comes this way. Except some of it came this way into my property. I heard someone say, well, I'm doing this for self-serving reasons because my property was damaged and they saw my photos. Well, those photos are of the Bass lot. And my property did get damaged right here, a long ways away from the house, but enough that I'm not only a claimant, but a party to this damage. Okay, I mentioned that in 2010, I walked this ground. We had a meeting with Lee Young. I think you were there, Joe, but Lee Young, but I and Landis and Peter Anderson says, we want to go down on the ground. You show us. I want to see on the ground where you saw the dozer. So we walked that ground. And right here, I have 2 metal pins like this and 2 metal pins like this, where Mr. Ornelas pointed out where furthest back that dozer went. And I agree with him. That happened. That dozer went that far back. Okay? And let's go back here. Slightly behind the line, but not on any device that caused this disaster. Anyways, you see I'm a little opinionated. So, this is where the grading occurred. It is normal to go outside property lines if you want to drive back so that you can put your blade down and scrape forward. Many properties up in Makaha do that. This is the containment and diversion system that was supposed to capture this. This is the ditches that come down, and somehow these ditches, you see how significant they are supposed to be stopped here by this. But in reality, this happened. So we had some water come through my lot, a bunch come through here, but of a massive quantity here, a massive quantity went through Kazu's lot, a massive quantity went through this area here and almost took out his wall. A massive quantity went out, almost took out the lower end of his other wall and damaged the Squatex property. But a good portion here, and that's what the debris on the asphalt road. It flowed everywhere, okay? When I went out of my house at about 5 in the morning, I thought a helicopter was landing here and wondering why a helicopter was landing, and when I walked over, it looked like Victoria Falls. Now, if we would have had what the developer should have built, if we had had an interceptor ditch and a rock wall back there behind my lot, behind this lot, behind Cosmos and everybody else's lot. That water would have done this, and we wouldn't be here today. So let me drive on. I'm almost done, so we can get to Q&A. This is a current Google Earth picture. You can go there now, and this is what it'll look like. And I'm going to blow it up. And same picture, boom. Okay, take a look at this. Can you see that from where you're sitting? I didn't draw those on there. Those are actual Google Earth photos of the engineer take marking the rear bass slot and this open area here all the way to here. You can see this is PVC pipe. This is the back of my lot. This is the back of Bass's lot. Then the back of Cosby's lot. And here's the rock wall being built way down here. Here's the lot line, but here's the rock wall. Here's that pile of rock. Look how far it is from the back. Okay. I'm gonna blow it up again. So you can see this tonight. My lot, Bass lot, and this ditch here that should be diversion ditch. Now, I also want to point out one thing. Go back here. And I said, when we were here, Mr. Ornelas, if he damaged a berm right here, show me where it is over here. Let's go walk to it. He walked around about 5 to 10 minutes, and I don't know, it was here, it was here. So there, in order to have a berm here, you should have a berm here. And by the way, this is Cosby's property line. There's a recent excavation done there. So you should have a berm here that goes this way. You just don't have a berm here, and that gets destroyed, and somehow that was what causes all of our flooding concerns. Okay, back up here a second. Okay, just for information purposes, I have said in the past that the dozer didn't get within 75 feet of the damaged berm. This is, you can take your ruler at home and put a pin here and draw it over to here, and it was 95 feet. And the closest area that we get is over here, which is 56.9 feet. That's a long way for a dozer to go, and oh, by the way, this back here is a slope like this with old growth trees that is, I will quote Landis Ornelas from 2010, a dozer never did this. Well, that's my presentation. I have handouts to give out in a second, but let's open it up to any Q&A. And we'll cut the camera.